but heating.
Families tonight, but before the plane could take off, an altercation developed, and the men were ultimately arrested. According to the local New York affiliate of NBC, in the men's possession, counterfeit pilot licenses. And at nearby LaGuardia, more arrests of men also trying to imitate flight crews. A total of 8 have been taken into custody in the 2 airports. We'll get the latest in a moment. Meantime, in Lower Manhattan, the rescue effort continues while nearby buildings are still in danger of collapse. We're going to talk to 2 of the heroes at the scene. And the Washington Post is reporting that the military will call up several thousand reservists in the coming days. We'll go live right now to the Pentagon to Norah O'Donnell. Norah, tell us about the fire.
Chris, just in the last 10 minutes, a massive fire has broken up in this gaping hole inside the Pentagon. Of course, this fire has been out for the past day or so, and now you can see behind me there's a great deal of smoke coming out of this gaping hole. The fire hoses are now spraying water back inside there. I cannot underestimate the gravity of this, in part because for the last day, because they've had the fire out, they've had 4 different search and rescue teams and recovery teams in there trying not only to find some of the victims, but also discover some of the evidence that they've been looking for. There have been FBI, NTSB teams, hundreds of people in there. Also, Chris, there is a fire hazard as well because they have been shoring up the Pentagon. They have been building underneath to make sure that it doesn't collapse. They have been building up using lumber about a story high to make sure that when those workers are in there, it doesn't collapse on them. Now, essentially, you have a bunch of lumber on there and a great deal of fire that is now broken out inside the Pentagon. It appears now, from my vantage point, that most of that fire has been dampened by those large fire hoses that are now pouring water inside that pit. Chris?
Norah, is the U.S. government's military forces, are they being run out of the Pentagon, or is there some new headquarters?
Well, not tonight. I think most of the people have gone home, Chris. About 24,000 people work, of course, in the world's largest office building. Only about half of them have been showing up for work. This area has been evacuated anyway. The most danger it poses is to the workers who've been in there. The fire
is developing tonight. First of all, the security question, I have to raise this. Is flying in the air in the United States today any safer than it was 2 days ago? Is anything being done to change the rules?
Yes, it is safer. Things are being done to change the rules. But I have to tell you, a top U.S. official told me today that this is not over, that there still are potential hijackers at large, both inside the United States and outside this country, willing and eager to target the U.S. They do not know of any other plots against the United States, but they know that they have 18 men identified who were on the 4 doomed airplanes, hijackers, and that there are other individuals still at large. So they have not rolled this up by any means. They've got a lot of leads, but there's a real question as to whether the protective measures taken, the end of curbside bag-in checking and things of that nature, not carrying plastic knives, whether that is enough to prevent a future hijacking.
Let me ask you about the developments tonight at JFK Airport and LaGuardia Airport in New York, both New York airports. They picked up a total of 8 men of Mideast descent, who apparently, some of them were masquerading as crewmen, others were carrying phony, counterfeit pilots' licenses. Are they part of this hijacker crew that we're talking about that you were reporting?
They might be connected. They are being questioned. They're being detained. They're not under arrest, no charges. But clearly there is strong suspicion, and that is one of the reasons, at least, why those airports were closed.
Let me ask you about the manner in which the FBI has developed this incredible amount of information so quickly. Do we know that the FBI had these been under surveillance before Tuesday morning, and that's why they were able to so quickly round up the names and identities of these people and their pictures and their associates?
It's certain that the FBI had a number of these people on watch lists. The real question is why someone who was on a watch list could get across the border, get into the United States, then take flight training, and a year later become part of this massive plot. So it's to be commended that the FBI has these master lists and that these names are well matched and that they so quickly found their way from Portland, Maine to Boston to Florida and started rolling this thing up. But there are other questions, which is, questions about our porous borders, about whether or not people who come in on tourist visas, even though they're on watch lists, as one of the members of this conspiracy apparently did, whether we have to do something about Border Patrol, about FAA regulations, and about a lot of things that are really beyond the FBI's control.
How are you reading right now the effort by this administration to launch some kind of major military campaign against the terrorists? Have they narrowed down their target at all, or is it just all terrorists, all Arab terrorists?
Clearly, they are narrowing their focus to at least to the extent that Osama bin Laden is a suspect, is the person to whom most of the evidence seems to be pointing. But there are other groups that are alive with him. A top official at the White House tonight said that there are other groups as well, that they're not just zeroing in only on Osama bin Laden. I think you'd have to say that the focus is to go after bin Laden. That's why we're seeing all of this pressure on Pakistan to close its borders, to get more intelligence shared, to try to get the Taliban leaders to turn him over. And if Pakistan does go along with what Pakistan's Prime Minister promised Colin Powell in a 10-minute conversation this afternoon, then for the first time we might be seeing some real responsiveness in the effort to track down Osama bin Laden. But the officials know that this could take years. This is a massive effort, and they're not just talking about pinstrike bombing or airstrikes against training camps. They want to roll up the training camps. They want to go after bin Laden. They want to go after collateral groups. They want what could be a multi-year effort, a sustained military campaign to rid the world of this terror. And they are getting very strong response tonight and throughout the day in calls that Colin Powell is making to leaders throughout the region. He's getting a very strong positive response, I'm told, from Qatar, from Bahrain, from Saudi Arabia, from Egypt, and of course we've seen this unprecedented show of support from NATO.
The most disturbing pictures, I think, it's hard to put them in calibration given what we've watched here with the World Trade Center, but overseas, those pictures of the people on the West Bank and in Gaza and East Jerusalem particularly applauding with incredible thrill, enthusiasm, the horror which unfolded here the other day on Tuesday. How do you isolate terrorists if they grow out of that anger, which is endemic in that part of the world?
We are breeding a whole new generation of suicide bombers, of people who end up
morning, and it gives you some sense of just how chaotic the scene was there. And as you look at the tape, you'll notice that some parts of the structure are starting to collapse. A very, very ugly scene there that morning, and they put the fire out, and as we say, they had to put a little fire out again here earlier this evening. A couple of things you should know here. The death toll now looking to be pretty firm at about 190. It may go up one or two or come down a couple, but it'll be right around 190. 64 of those were on board American Airlines Flight 77. 126 are unaccounted for in the Pentagon. Most of those are Army personnel, although there are a sizable number of Navy personnel as well. The black box. There's been a lot of confusion about the black box. We can tell you that it has not been located. To our knowledge, according to some very knowledgeable sources, they haven't heard it pinging, but they do believe they know the general area in the structure where it might be, and they're hoping to get in there soon. Why haven't they gotten there yet?
Emerging as tips come flooding in.
The FBI.
Their guns unholstered, telling everyone to hit the floor. One final point. As I said, New York had been gaining a sense of security, but in this context, by noon yesterday, there had been more than 90 false bomb threats in the city, and the mayor has said that they will bring all of those individuals to justice. They may perhaps make an example of them. Obviously, what officials and authorities are trying to impress upon people is that there is security, they're going to have security in this city, and that there should not be any panic. We're live at JFK. I'm Catherine Herridge, Fox News. Back to you.
All right, Catherine, thank you very much. Catherine Herridge, keeping on top of those developments at JFK International Airport. And, of course, if we find out more, we'll tell you about it. In the meantime, I want to go back upstairs to John Scott. John?
All right, Neil, thanks very much. Of course, this national tragedy is touching people from all over the country. Right now, joining us on the phone, a young lady named Casey Forth. Her brother, Chad, works for the Morgan Stanley Company.
So I still have some among the missing and injured.
Well, I know your men and women will be among those on the front lines, and in the weeks and months ahead, we'll be thinking of you. Colonel Stephen Eady, thank you.
Thank you so much, Jane.
9/12. Bryant.
All right, Jane, as details emerge about the terrorists and what they did, some Americans now realize that they've crossed paths with those terrorists, and in some cases may have unknowingly helped them. Bobby Harley reports.
This is an attitude indicator.
Flight instructor Henry George now knows he helped to train one, possibly even two, of the FBI's named terrorists in Tuesday's attack. Mohammed Atta and another man believed to be Marwan al-Shahehi wanted time at the controls of a jet simulator. They paid in cash, and George gave it to them.
There was nothing said or done that would make you believe, that the individuals were suspect of any kind. I mean, they give you their credit card. They gave me an address in the Venice area where I could mail them.
And he says those people arrested had no connection to the hijackers. Now, Fox News confirms that the two black boxes from the plane that crashed into the Pentagon have been located. The flight data recorder from the Pennsylvania crash also recovered late yesterday. About 4,700 people are missing in the World Trade Center explosions. And President Bush is set to visit Ground Zero in New York today. He has declared this a national day of remembrance. There will be a noon service at the National Cathedral in Washington. He has promised to attend before coming to New York. Congressional leaders in the White House agree on a $40 billion bill to start recovering from the attacks. That is double the amount of money that President Bush initially asked for. The country is looking at billions of dollars.
Good morning. Obviously, everyone is concerned about the impact of the weather on the relief and recovery efforts, and there's no question that they're hampered by it. Things have to proceed more carefully, more cautiously. At the same time, they're going on because there is still a strong hope that we'll be able to recover people and find people and save them. So we will try very hard to conduct the operations today. Obviously, considering the fact that it's dangerous, or more dangerous than it otherwise would be, but they will go on, and hopefully we'll be able to find and save some people today. The misinformation yesterday was a cause of real concern, and I'd like to explain at least a little bit about it and ask you if you could consider in reporting this information to be more patient than to just run with information before it's been verified. Some of it is meaningless ultimately because it gets corrected, but some of it could be very, very dangerous and very emotionally damaging. Reports, for example, that there are people that we've discovered and been in contact with that aren't verified, aren't true. And there was a report like that yesterday evening that a woman was in communication with people, and there were 10 or 15 people in a store and underneath, and it was reported rather widely, and it leads to lots of families becoming very, very hopeful and then finding out that it's just not plain true at all. It also leads to sometimes a lot of activity that can be very dangerous, recovery activity, and people who become very excited about it. So please be more careful about reporting this information. There's no reason to run with it until it's actually verified by the police or by the FBI. Same thing was true about the alleged arrest last night and information about box cutters and knives, and none of which was verified by the police or the FBI. all of which was publicized, all of which turns out now to be untrue. So if we could all be a little bit more patient and verify the information before we put it out, we won't raise people's hopes unnecessarily, and we won't create a situation in which decisions are made that can endanger lives. School is open today, and it opened on time. It'll be open. They'll be open again on Monday, except in the area that is still closed off, which is the area south of Canal Street, and that part of the city is still part of the recovery zone. We're going to try today to carve out another area south of Canal Street that we can open over the weekend, and particularly to have it open for Monday. And it would be the Wall Street area. And therefore, we would ask businesses there to start considering the fact that over the weekend, they may want to come in and clean out and make sure that their buildings are able to operate on Monday. I'll know better at 4 or 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock whenever we get back to briefing you how much of the Wall Street area we can reopen, but we're going to try very hard to open up as much of it as possible for Monday. The Staten Island Ferry will also start operating definitely on Monday, and we'll try to start these things over the weekend so that there's a shakedown before we actually get to Monday. Businesses that need help, there are a lot of them. They should know that the resources of the city, the state, and the federal government are all there to assist them and to help them to reestablish themselves so that not only they can recover what they lost, but so they can grow and prosper. We ordinarily have lots of incentive packages and other programs that the state and the city do together to keep businesses in New York and to encourage businesses to come to New York. All of those packages are now going to be assisted by the legislation that was passed in Albany yesterday, and the legislation that apparently is going to pass in Washington that will make substantial amounts of money available to the city and state for exactly this purpose. So we're trying to reach out to all of the businesses that are affected. We've put together the city and state economic development operations to do that. And what we will do is give you a number later so that they can also call us. If we don't get to you, we will try. You get to us, and we will work with you on figuring out what you need in order to get through this difficult period and then reestablish and grow. We've taken out 10,425 tons of debris, 1,154 truckloads so far, and that's really to give you some sense of the monumental nature of the task that's going on. The people who are doing it are incredibly brave. The reports yesterday of firefighters and others that were saved and taken to hospitals were also false. They were not firefighters and people who had been buried in the attack. They were people who got injured or hurt or got into some difficulties during the recovery effort yesterday. So it is very good news that they were saved, and it's wonderful. However, we also have to be careful about reporting that. And we also have to underscore how dangerous it is for what these men and women are doing. Finally, a couple of warnings. There's a telemarketing firm that is calling people up asking for donations. If somebody calls you and asks for a donation to help the surviving families or the heroes or anything like that, call up the police or the FBI and tell us who's calling you, because we'll go out and arrest them. Nobody should be calling up and asking for donations. There are people that are offering donations, and that's wonderful. But there's nobody that I know of, or the governor or anyone else, that has been authorized by anyone to be calling up and soliciting donations from people. If anybody is doing that, and there is one telemarketing group that is doing this particularly from senior citizens, we would really like to catch them and make an example out of them, in the same way that we would like to catch some of the people that are calling in bomb threats. This is a difficult time. It's a time in which people are more susceptible, more vulnerable than usual. And there are always, unfortunately, people trying to take advantage of that. But if we catch you, then we're going to try very hard to put you in jail. On that note, Governor. All right.
Mayor, thank you. First, let me say that we're grateful the President is coming in this afternoon, and as we indicated yesterday, I think it's an important message and sign of his commitment to the ongoing effort to make sure that the people of America stand with the people of New York as we get through this, and we're extremely grateful to him for that. We've thanked so many people. The police and firefighters have been so brave, the EMS groups, and but I want to particularly thank one particular group right now that are still out there working. The Port Authority had its headquarters in the World Trade Center. It's been through devastating losses. Many of its top administrators are lost. Dozens of its police officers are lost. And yet right now, out at the airports, out at the bridges in downtown Manhattan, we have hundreds and hundreds of Port Authority workers, thousands of workers, out there standing shoulder to shoulder with everyone else, helping others instead of bearing their own grief. And I just wanted to thank them for their professionalism and the great job they are doing. I also want to thank our Command Center bunker up in Albany. I don't know if they're watching right now, but they were activated by 9:30 Tuesday morning, and they've been there ever since, many of them going 18, 20 hours a day, helping to coordinate the effort with the city so that we could make sure whatever needs the city had, we would be able to respond to as quickly as possible, and I want to thank them. The mayor talked about the economic and the financial compact considerations that are underway right now, and just about 2 hours ago I talked with Chairman Bill Young of the Appropriations Committee. I've talked with Senator Clinton, Senator Schumer, and our House delegates, and we're very grateful to them because it does look like this morning legislation will pass Congress authorizing significant and important financial help to the city of New York, to the tri-state area, and to the and to all of those who are going through this difficulty. And I just wanted to thank Senator Schumer, who I was on the phone with all night, and Senator Clinton, and in the House delegation, the whole delegation, but in particular, about 1 o'clock this morning, there was a meeting going on trying to decide what to do, and Congressman John Sweeney, Congressman Jim Walsh, both of whom are from upstate, were in that meeting with the Speaker fighting very hard, and along with Senator Schumer, they deserve a great deal of credit for making this appropriation possible to help us get through this. As the mayor indicated, we are working as well on economic recovery. As I said yesterday, we set up an economic recovery assistance headquarters at 633 3rd Avenue. This is a joint state and city effort with the federal SBA and other federal agencies there as well, where a business seeking assistance can get in one's place state, city, federal help to make sure that they can get back on their feet. And the entire 32nd floor has been allocated for this purpose, and there is a number operational, 212-818-1700. For businesses that want the help in getting back on their feet. Finally, with respect to the contributions, we've been inundated with contributions from people across the state, and we are very, very grateful. It is just incredible to see this outpouring of public support for the families and for all of those who are going through this difficult recovery. The city has the Twin Towers Fund, the United Way has its September 11th fund, and the state has set up a fund, the World Trade Center Relief Fund, to take in all those contributions that have been made from across the state. And as the mayor indicated, we are unaware of any legitimate group that is soliciting funds, but obviously donations are accepted, and we have a 1-800 number for those who want to donate, but it's probably going to be inundated, but I'll give it anyway. 1-800-801-8092, or checks can be sent to P.O. Box 5028, Albany, New York. And these funds will be working with the Twin Towers Fund and with the United Way to make sure we coordinate our efforts to make sure that everything that can be done is done for the victims of this tragic incident. So we'll get through this. And again, to the mayor, to the president, we're grateful that everyone is pulling together to make sure we put this behind us. Thank you.
Good morning. Again, I'm Barry Martin. I'm the Assistant Director of the FBI here in New York. Following on the Mayor's comments, what I would like to just reiterate is, again, the whole investigative effort of the Joint Terrorism Task Force, which is the FBI and NYPD and a number of other federal agencies, is to identify the hijackers, their support systems, where they were since they've been in country. And in that regard, we are doing numerous interviews, running down hundreds, or if not thousands, of leads around the country. We are responding to numerous calls from the airports to reiterate what the mayor has already told you. The reporting that has been going on all night, I can definitively tell you, is inaccurate. We were out at both airports last evening. We did talk to approximately a dozen individuals. We have only one individual left who is still being questioned by the task force. All other 10 have been released and have been on their way. This activity will continue to occur. All of the security departments of the various airlines are quickly reaching out for us in law enforcement if, in fact, there's any question as to identification, and there's an overabundance of caution, which we are fine with. To expedite some of this processing, at least here in New York, and I believe it's apt to be implemented nationally at the major airports, is that law enforcement, in particular FBI, will be stationed at the various airports here. In particular, we're going to be at JFK and LaGuardia, so we will respond quickly to these and get it out as quickly as possible. I have a media representative, but I am also in contact with the mayor's representative and the police commissioner's representative, and as soon as we can get information out, we are getting it out. One brief reminder is that it is a pending criminal investigation. We are not going to be able to satisfy all of your demands. We will have to protect the investigation as best we can. However, as it pertains to public safety and traveling and what we can release, we will release it as soon as we can. As the mayor said, we would appreciate you verifying any of this information with us. I would also like to reiterate the mayor's point on bomb scares. We are having numerous bomb scares here in the city. It has been very disruptive to the Terrorism Task Force's activities. We are diverting very few precious resources to go to each of these bomb scares. The FBI and the United States Attorney is going to take a very aggressive approach to bomb scares, and we will prosecute federally. The mayor has brought to my
All right, so the FBI, the mayor, and the governor of New York reporting in there with the latest information, urging the media to be cautious, especially because there was a lot of bad information reported widely last night, much of it turning out to be not the case. Well, we are awaiting a national prayer service at the National Cathedral, but in the meantime, one of the soldiers at the Pentagon is talking about what went on there. This is Sergeant Brock Bowman.
We've been doing body removal. Well, the situations, you know, I don't know how to say.
Were you, is it worse than you could ever have imagined? I mean, I'm sure you were prepared or at least talked to about what to expect once you actually got in there.
Right. We had chaplains that briefed us, and Sergeant Major Butts briefed us on what we could expect to see in there, but, you know, it's like somebody can tell you what to expect, but when you see it, it's never what you think it's going to be. Just the overall destruction, disbelief. You never think somebody would do something like this.
Let's get someone else. Go ahead. Next question real quick.
General,
yeah.
how much headway have you been able to make in getting some of the debris removed? We realize it's such a precarious position of the collapsed part of the building. How much headway have you made in removing debris?
Okay, the structural personnel who are working for the fire chief have been in there all day shoring up the building. They are making progress. What you see from the outside of the building is not justifiable as the amount of work that's going on inside. Now later today we plan to take an Army television crew inside to film it, and then at some point we'll try and make that film available. But the problem is right now is just cramped spaces, and it's got to be cleared by the personnel there before we put someone else in to take those pictures. But there is an extensive amount of work going on in there to both shore up the sides of the collapse zone so there isn't any further collapse, and then also to free up access points so we can get in to find remains and find the rooms themselves to clear the debris out. Next question.
All right, so the Pentagon taking care of its own there. That's Commander Major General James Jackson, of course. No organization in the world better prepared to go to work and get the job done than the U.S. military. They are having an easier time of it there than the folks are in Manhattan, where the collapse obviously much larger, much more catastrophic. 110-story towers, 2 of them pancaked down to the ground. Let's head to Lower Manhattan. That's where Fox senior correspondent Eric Shawn has the latest on recovery efforts there. Eric?
Well, John, the discouraging news this morning, of course, no new survivors plucked out from underneath those tons of debris since Wednesday. So we've had 48 hours despite this tremendous.
A man who is a pilot, an actual pilot, was getting on board an airplane to fly as a passenger. Now, he had his own ID card, but for reasons we don't fully understand yet, he also apparently had the identification card of his brother. Now, the brother, we're told, once lived at an address in Boston at which some suspected terrorist associates once also, at a different time, we believe, lived. So the man's carrying ID from his brother, who shared an address at some time, not at the same time, with suspected terrorist associates. So when those addresses matched up, the brothers, with this list of people to be on the lookout for, that set off alarms. The second thing that happened, at a different point, a group of 9 people try also to board an airplane that is also bound for the West Coast out of the other airport in New York. And all these 9 people, have stickers or luggage tags on their baggage that alarm airport employees. The employees think that these people are trying to masquerade as airline employees, and so they sounded that alarm. It turns out those 9 people were going to a conference sponsored by the Boeing Corporation, the airplane manufacturer, the company that made the kinds of planes that were used in the Tuesday suicide air crashes, the Boeing 757 and 767. So these 2 coincidences put together led authorities to simply, out of an abundance of caution, I think probably an overabundance of caution, but understandably so, to shut down the 3 airports until all these people could be questioned. They were questioned at length, and authorities now say they're satisfied. These folks were entirely innocent. They had no evil intent. They were not ever carrying weapons. They were simply trying to get on their legitimately scheduled airplanes with their legitimate tickets. And they've been released, and one official, Lester, told us, expect to see a lot more of this in the coming days as people react with taking no chances.
American Airlines Flight 77.